So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, and their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have back with us Charlie Breese, who's managing director at Sylatech. So, firstly, Charlie, thank you for coming back and spending a bit more time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Sylatech, what you do, how you help people in the sectors you work in, that would be wonderful.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Can't believe it's nearly 2 years since we last spoke. God,
I,
blimey.
I know.
Um, Anyway, yeah, thanks very much. I'm Charlie Breeze. I'm Managing Director of Sylatech Limited. We are specialists in the design, build, manufacture of bespoke and some generic microwave devices. Specifically, we run a lost wax aluminium foundry, which supports both sales into all sectors, aerospace, defense, space, primarily, and other markets. We supply into rail and medical and so on. We're currently employing about 120 people and sort of enjoying a small uplift in trade since the pandemic. It's been slower than we had hoped, but we're sort of clawing our way back.
Brilliant, brilliant. And what would you say makes the best clients for you? What were the best people you serve? How would you describe them?
We try to develop long-term strategic accounts. We try not to be um, just sort of spot traders. That's not what we're good at. We're not a
Yeah,
jobbing shop.
yeah,
Um, so we do long-term agreements. We've got contracts for 5 years, 10 years. Those are the ideal because then you
brilliant.
can really start to plan the future and you can
Yes,
manage your production capacity. But we do take, we obviously we have. I think we've got over 700 different customers, and they're not all on agreements, but they would be the ideal ones. But we do so many different things that it applies to so many different customers and markets that one shoe doesn't necessarily fit all. We
yes,
are a bit of a jack of all and a master of a few.
brilliant. I'd urge anyone that's watching that you might think you might be a great supplier for them to go to your website. There's a lot of information on
Yeah.
there, and as they sectors, types of things you do. So that'd be wonderful. And so since we last spoke, as we said, I can't believe it's nearly 2 years since we last spoke. Yes, but I'm keen to know what's changed for you and for the business since then.
Uh, It's there's not been a vast amount of change. I mean, there's been a lot of rebuilding going on. We were fortunate enough to win a place on the Sharing in Growth Business Improvement Program, and we would have been on that when we were last talking, I think.
Yes.
And 2 years, further on since then, we've come on a long way. And I think one of the big things that's really happened with Sarnatech is how we've pivoted our focus onto a continuous improvement
Yeah.
focus as well as sales growth. So at the same time, we've been trying to grow the business. We've been really managing, this sort of drive for improved efficiency,
Yeah.
improved delivery, things like that. So we've gone from 75% OTIF to 97% OTIF. Foundry yields have gone up, to levels that we've never had before.
Right.
Microwave yields are at good levels, and so we've really tried to do that whilst we've been rebuilding the sales with the team that we've got here. And that's probably what we've been doing the most of,
Brilliant.
as well as trying to sort of expand out into new markets and such like.
Yeah, I guess it brings to mind that old saying of turnover for vanity, but profit for sanity. And
Yeah,
you
indeed.
know, I'd
Indeed.
rather have a 50% margin on a £1 million business than 10% on a £10 million business or whatever.
Yeah,
Well, that's a
well,
five
well,
million pound business, I should say.
that's
It,
right. We don't do sort of high volume, super low margin. We're not good at that.
yeah,
We would just fail instantly. We are much more around the sort of small to medium, reasonable margin business, but we work very closely with our customers to try to make sure they get what they want on time and in full, really. That's
yeah,
we're we're definitely not a mass manufacturer. That's not
no,
what we do.
brilliant, brilliant. But and what we say some of the key challenges you've had to face over the last sort of 18 months, two
Uh,
years.
the obvious ones, I suppose, it's inflation. I mean, we have had the benefit that the energy prices are coming down slowly, but the continued drive for minimum wage is paralyzing, and it's going up again this year. Then we've got the national insurance, which is the stuck record that every person in business is bleating about at the minute. But that's really painful for SMEs like us. We're trying to grow the economy, yet at the same time, we have to take countermeasures when
Yeah.
six-figure impact on your bottom line numbers just happen overnight effectively, which is what happens from the 1st of April. You just get a new tax comes in, and you just have to find a way of engineering that cost out. And some of it's unpleasant, some of it's creative. We've
Yeah.
had to invest in capital to take some cost out. We've had to do all the other stuff that nobody wants to do.
Yeah, yeah, and uh, obviously it's very very new, but with the sort of global change with the tariff situation that's going, I suspect it hasn't actually hit you yet. But are you see what are your views of how that may or may not affect you?
I think for us as a business, we're not going to be directly hit too badly with the tariffs,
Good.
but what it does do is it just creates this political uncertainty,
Yeah.
and that doesn't do anybody's confidence any good. I
Yes.
mean, we seem to live in a world of like what happens today, what's tomorrow. I mean, it's such an evolving thing that the certainty of life just seems to have vanished. One day it's with smartphones, the next day it's without smartphones. I mean, it's such a fickle going on that
Yes.
I think that's just creating uncertainty, which means lack of confidence, which means people are more conservative about what they want to do. They're not speculating, they're not investing. We've got a spin out company called flux245.com, which is we've been working on for 5 years. And we're at the fundraising stage on that, but it's just that it couldn't possibly be at a worse time
Right. Yeah.
for raising funds because everybody's just so nervous about what's happening with the markets and
Yes.
capital and so on and so forth. So that side of it, it's the sort of softer, unseen side that worries me most about the tariff side. It doesn't physically directly impact the company
Great.
right now, but it will do in a sort of more macro picture.
Yeah, it's funny as it is. Many recessive cycles for me are more to do with confidence and opinion rather than necessarily economic mathematics, if that makes sense. And uncertainty typically creates those sorts of things.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. I mean, uncertainty just kills everything. I mean, the uncertainty about the state of the British economy and this pathetic growth. We're trying to stimulate growth, yet we apply a tax on SMEs and well, everybody really, and the numbers go down. And we've got the most appalling sort of growth record at the moment, and the
Mm.
confidence in our economy is a very very low ebb. So that it's there isn't actually much good news around the global political world at the minute. The only thing that is good for business for us is defense, which is a result of global
Yes.
issues. But we make passive devices, and we've had some reasonably strong demand for those. Not as much as we would like, obviously,
Yeah.
but
Brilliant.
that's the sort of the upside we've had out of the global uncertainty. But it doesn't really cover the other side. The negatives of it are bigger than
Okay.
the positives for us.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I'm keen to know if there's any key wins you've seen over the last couple of years that you'd like to share with us.
Oh, not really. We haven't had any significant new radar programs. There've been some nice sales sort of wins of existing products, but
Right.
we haven't launched. We've got two that are about to launch, but they haven't quite hit. And one of those will be the back end of this year with one of our key customers, Saab. That's a multi-million pound contract, which we're negotiating right now, which is exciting.
Brilliant.
Can't happen fast enough, but that's the joys of dealing with big companies. So there's nothing significantly new. I mean, obviously, when times are a bit tougher, you're not investing in as much capital. You just hunker down a bit. You just keep an eye on your cash.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you're protecting the future and all that stuff. So it's been a bit of a slog the last couple of years, really, quite honestly.
Yeah, no, I really get that. It is such a challenging time in many ways. What I always find interesting though is that if there were, or well, when there are, and hopefully you'll be celebrating something fairly soon. As an entrepreneurial person, how good would you say you are at celebrating success and wins?
No, we're good actually. Yeah, we do that, and we do
Brilliant.
it. We do it with the whole team here. It's not just about slapping it all on LinkedIn and things like that, but we do a lot of stuff on site to try and just make sure we drive our culture. And we've spent a lot of time focusing on our culture here, so that we reward everybody. We have a days when we have a good month, we get everybody a pork pie or a quiche or something like that. We have pork pie Fridays. Uh,
Brilliant.
we had a contract win. We got everybody a bottle of Prosecco. We had a summer barbecue to celebrate last year, something I can't remember what it was, but there was a good reason. And then actually last autumn, we had our 60th anniversary. So we put a marquee up and we had a party that night to celebrate. And so things like that, we do it. We try and do it all inclusively with
Brilliant.
everybody. And we communicate more than we've ever done just to let people know what's going on and so on and so forth.
It's really great to hear. It was interesting. We were at I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago about business growth, and two or three of the speakers were talking about the importance of building culture, building community, spending. For one of the CEOs, a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, who flew over from America, was saying the one of the key jobs of a CEO is to spend as much time as they're able with their team, um,
Yeah.
and broaden that right out to everybody where possible. He says, he basically said up to 100 people. I appreciate you've exceeded that. We should be speaking to everyone at some point during every quarter. Obviously, once they get to a point where that would almost be possible for a CEO, but
Yeah.
that connection with us is so important.
Yeah, no, it really is. And if you think about it, as the head of the company, I don't like surprises. I don't like not knowing stuff, and it's no different from everybody else. This is their lifeblood as much as it's mine. So it's only right and fair that they know as much as we can sensibly distill. Really, I mean,
Brilliant.
there's certain financial metrics we just need to professionally just keep tight, but pretty much everything else is communicated. We do a monthly newsletter that goes out onto the notice boards, and we've got our own app that we've developed. So we can use that for pushing notifications through and keeping people updated with
Brilliant.
impacting visits of customers or good news or updates or have you seen this in the local XYZ? It's communicating with your team is absolutely critical, and we have definitely noticed an improvement in our retention by
Brilliant.
doing.
Wonderful. And what would you say are some of the things you've learned from both the successes and the challenges that you've had to face over the last couple of years?
Well, could you say the question again?
I
Sorry, Chris.
want to say some of the things you've learned about growing your business with the challenges and the successes you've had. Is there anything that really comes to mind about how to successfully grow a business of the size you are? You've just, you describe yourself an SME. You're very much the M side of the SME. I'm interested to know what some of the things you've learned as you've grown into that phase.
Um, I've got quite a lot of scars on my back after
Good man.
after 25 years of running businesses. What have I learned? I think I've learned that I have got wiser with age. I've definitely learned to slow down the speed of response and digest and consider implications rather than the quick fire and forget kind of right. I have become more interested in things like root causes and corrective actions, I think, than I used to be. I used to be more results driven, but actually, you get the results if you drive out root causes. And I think time has matured me as an individual, and I think that's then reflected out through the SLT, the leadership team, because I urge them not to rush into certain things. And when I'm saying not rushing, I'm talking about 20 minutes versus overnight, kind of just digest it, have a
Yes.
think about the implications of this, who might be affected and what might be affected, what's the consequence. So I think we're a bit more reflective
Brilliant.
now than we were. Oh, what else? Not much, I wouldn't think. Not much, Chris.
I,
Difficult question.
No, forgive me. But what is interesting, in what you've just said, for me, because one of the things that was described to me a few years back was if we consider is the use of our subconscious, and what I mean by that is it was described to me that our subconscious mind is the most powerful supercomputer on the planet, and it will be for quite a while till wonderful things start to appear. and consequently, but we need to program it. It doesn't communicate words and language. Therefore, thinking, but programming the things we need to think and giving it a bit of time will come up the answer. So the idea of let me sleep on it is quite a really valuable tool for strategic thinking. Of I'll think about
Yeah.
it today. I'll let the mind overnight process it, and often the following day we come up with either the answer or perhaps potentially a better answer or confirmation that the first answer was probably the right one. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and the same can be done. It works at a strategic level when you're thinking about things, but also in the face of conflict. If you have a problem, sometimes your first immediate response is to "Rah," or whatever. You want to get out and not slam your fist on the table, but just take it home, and you'll always come up with a better,
Yeah.
more reserved, more controlled, more measured, more thought response to the challenge the following day or a few hours
Yes.
later, whichever it is that, however fast the brain takes to react. But if you
Yes.
sleep on these things, I always find the following day is as good a time as any.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find working with businesses and business owners and leaders that either due to a lack of time or their natural behavior, that they don't give themselves enough time. I always talked about the most effective leaders are ones that have more than enough time. In fact, time, if you like, to. And I always say that the most effective business leaders want to have enough time to be able to sit back on a regular basis, but also frequently, sit back, feet on the desk, and just think. Because thinking time is valuable, but it's amazing how many smiles I get, a bit like yours. You are joking, my friend. But
Well, yeah, there's not many feet marks on my desk, but it's absolutely right. You are right. Most business leaders in the worlds of SMEs, fast moving, you never have enough time. You always seem to be chasing your tail. But if there are a few folks out there that do it, then brilliant, bravo to them, well done. I wish I could do the same. I get most of my thinking time when I'm walking the dog, or driving to and from work. That's the sort of the piece that you get away from the phone and the emails. Um,
and a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people say exactly that, and that makes some sense. It's just, for me, it is probably one of the most important things we do as leaders of businesses, and therefore, you know, actually allocating time to do it during our working week, working month, working day, sort of makes sense. But as I say, I think we tend to put it aside and go almost see it as not as important to getting stuff done, and yet for me, as we grow and as we build teams, it's actually our job, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, and I think I mentioned before we started, I love to collect quotes or sayings about business and success. Are there any, as we said, any you'd like to share from that you kept yourself using fairly regularly?
Not ones that don't involve swear words.
That's okay. I'm sure we've got a fairly mature audience here. If you, but
No, well, I'll refrain from my most well-coined expression. No, I don't know. I think, yeah, well, where would I be? I'd be at reflection provides a better output, I think would be my
brilliant.
kind of thing. That's the
Yeah.
whole point about you have a problem, don't rush into it, take counsel, sleep on it. You'll come up with an answer, whether it's a challenge or whether it's a complex or confrontation or whatever.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
reflect, seek counsel. Your first answer is not always the best answer.
Brilliant. It's not exactly the same, but one of the phrases I love, and I've heard it different ways, but the one I use is "slow down to speed up." If that
Mm,
makes sense, is that slowing down and thinking means we'll probably, if we get the best answer, we're more likely to achieve the goal more
yep.
quickly,
Yeah, I
easily.
think that's fair enough. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
And I'm keen to know what you've learned about yourself so far on this journey that you're on, Charlie.
Um, I'm just getting older, um, because
You
it's
and me
2 years
both.
since I last spoke to you, and it's gone like a flash, which means I've aged in 2 years in what feels like the blink of an eye. I think I'm probably, hmm, golly, that's a difficult question. Me. I think I think the realization is I'm going to be working until I die, probably is my my main thing. It's just going to keep going and going. And actually, I think the thing that does keep pulling me through is actually I do genuinely love work.
Yes.
I've got a few pals that are already wittering about this concept of retirement, and it fills me with abject horror. I just dread to think how many gardening jobs I'd be given. So I think just if you enjoy your work, and I love my work,
Great.
and I don't get fazed by long days and travel and stuff. And I think that's probably the key. I think there's nice people, it's a good business,
Yes.
and if you really enjoy it, the days just whistle by.
Yeah.
Even in the hard times are just a challenge, and if you like a challenge, which is what most MDs do, then you should just love your work. And if you don't, you probably want to be looking at doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting one. I've worked with quite a few business owners and leaders, and we've helped to exit through succession, etc. But the number one thing, and I completely agree. One is, if, as you say, if you absolutely love what you do, why would you want to stop? Totally align with that. I think, but if it's not 100%, then what is important if we have a plan for what it looks like on the other side, because most driven people, sounds like yourself, see retirement as some sort of dead end. Is almost like I'm working, and then it stops. Well, that's an anathema to most driven people. It's having a plan for what I'm going to do on the other side that will make it exciting and
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah. Well, I still have two young kids, so there's no way I'm stopping for a
Right.
while.
Fabulous, fabulous. And as I say, when we really love it, I mean, there is that quote from whoever it was that says, if you absolutely love what you do, then you'll never do a day's work again in your life. And I think that really
Right.
is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there are days when you sweat and swear a bit, and you go home and you gnash your teeth, but that's just part of life. It's no different.
Yep, brilliant. And so looking forward, what does the future look like for Silatech, and what are the main challenges you face? Would you think, if any?
Um, I think, we're always challenged by sales. Sales is what
Yeah,
drives a business forward, and at the end of the day, it's customers that pay the wages. So we'll continue to push that. We're trying to grow the business. We want to expand into the field next door and put up another building to make better working environments and enable growth and all these sorts of things. So I think we've got some challenges ahead with that. But we have got some very significant contracts in the pipeline. There's four big projects, and if two of them come off, the next couple of years we'll be having a different conversation. It'll be really interesting. But we just need a bit of luck, I think. Everyone
brilliant.
needs a bit of luck.
We all need a bit of luck, and I do believe in the concept of making our own luck, but ultimately it is
Yes,
luck in many ways.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, I agree. But sometimes you just need a bit of a freebie as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's this left field things, isn't it? Right place, right time. Well, if we weren't really trying to get as many places we could, we probably wouldn't be in that place. But
Exactly.
sometimes you can
Exactly.
just, yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I mean, are there any key initiatives? I think you mentioned one or two key initiatives that you've got coming in the next year or two that we should be keeping an eye out for.
So we've got a new this spin out company is called Flux 245, and that is using microwaves from our core business, but we've developed a patented technology with that. That is going to recycle the hard to recycle mixed and dirty waste plastic films that currently go to landfill or incineration. So we've got a technology that we've done proof of concept with, and we're now trying to roll that out to scale.
Wow,
So that's pretty interesting. And we're in that sort of pitching phase. We have a pitch deck and such like. That's one R&D project, and we've got another one called MeltX, which is designed around the purification of aluminium to previously uncharted territories to enable aerospace castings to be made lighter and stronger and more reliable. And we're in the middle of an aerospace grant with that, but within about 18 months, that'll be coming out onto the marketplace as an industrial application and ready for scaling as well. So we'll be on fundraising for that as well.
brilliant.
Two very significant R&D projects are rumbling away in the background
Oh,
behind
good.
Sylatech.
Sounds fascinating. There's an event actually that might be worth making you aware of if you're not, but I'll touch when we've finished if that's helpful. But um, and again, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fascinating. Again, I know it's been a little while, and keep I describe what we do as fighting the good fight, but and I think that's true of any SME business
Yeah.
owner, please keep fighting the good fight. And for anyone that's watching, we'd like to get in touch with you or Sylatech, what would be the best way to do that, Charlie?
Yeah, just email me at charliebreeze@sylatech.com or charliebreeze@flux245.com if you're interested in plastics recycling. Either of those, or you can come through the Sylatech switchboard and they'll hook you in contact with me on this. That would be great. Would be very pleased to hear from you.
Wonderful. Well, look, it'd be great maybe to catch up in perhaps a little bit sooner next time, especially with these things that are going on.
No
So
problem.
I'll make
No
a note
problem.
to maybe get back in touch in 6, 12 months again and catch up. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant. Nice to talk to you, Chris, and have a good rest of the day. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right.